Hello everyone, I'm back with another video. I'm Dcash Gaming, and today I think it's time for me to talk about what happened in this Formula One race. If you don't know what this is the Formula One sporting regulations issued on the 8th of December 2021, which was 5 days before the final race of the 2021 season, which featured a winner takes all between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Okay. So I know if I switch tabs, it's going to not take. It's not going to make my record. It's going to make my recording stop. So basically, Mercedes protested to the stewards. If you've watched it, you know what's going on here. That the safety car rules were not followed from the sporting regulations. I will have to agree with them here. Call me a salty Lewis Hamilton fan, or whatever. I'm just reading what's here. So the rule that they quoted was Rule 48.12. And this is what I was thinking of, because I kind of know the sporting regulations. I've known how it's been. I've kind of tried to follow this, because I know there's been a lot of interesting controversy and stuff this year. So I've kind of made myself familiar with it. It's nice to know. As someone who's heavily invested in myself in the motorsports, this is something I was just like, well, this is an interesting read. So, Rule 48.12. And if you know what happened here, so let me give you a little more background. So, with 5 to go, Nicholas Latifi, which I got feel for Nicholas Latifi, he's under fire from everyone. I feel bad for the guy. He made a mistake. That's racing. So they go around a couple laps behind the safety car, which is fine, right? That's just the thing. Lewis Hamilton had that race won without the safety car. But so they're going to their safety car. And I was texting my little group chat I have with a couple people who I know. I was like, hey, what's going to happen here? Because they're going to have to send the lap cars around. I mean, they don't have to, but it's going to cost them 2 laps to do that. And they're like, yeah, that's the problem. So, and then they start talking about the broadcast. Well, are they going to send them to the back? Which is allowed. They could just keep them where they're at, which still probably would have Lewis Hamilton win the race. Mercedes thought that this was the end of the race because of how hard Nicholas Latifi hit the wall, and they clean it up, and then they have to send them around. And if they did that, that would end the race. In worst cases, if they don't send the lap cars around, they stay where they're at, they restart the race, Lewis Hamilton drives away, and Verstappen has to go through all the lap cars. I know it might have blue flags, it will probably cost them 4 seconds, and Lewis Hamilton wins the race. So, here you go. Rule 40.12. If the clerk of the course, which at this case was Massey, considers it safe to do so, and the message lap cars may now overtake has been sent to all competitors via the official messaging system, any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap in the safety car. This will only apply to cars that were lapped at the time they crossed the line at the end of the lap, during which they crossed the first safety car line after the safety car is deployed. So let me break this down a little bit. So when Massey, the race director, considers it's safe to do so, he will send the message, lap cars may now overtake. The lap cars will then have to go and pass the safety car. If you know anything about iRacing, it's like getting a wave around by an admin. That's basically the same thing. And only the cars that were scored a lap down when the safety car was sent out gets that lap back. So let's say you go on a lap down because you're getting like a wing fixed or you're getting some engine problems fixed. You can't go and then pass the safety car. However, this was not followed. Because it says this one wonderful word. Where is it here? Any cars. That means all. All cars that have been lapped by the leader. Basically, that's all you have to say. Any cars does any equals all. Because you could just say the top 5. Because what they did was they sent 5 cars around instead of the 8. Which is fine. They could do that. But it doesn't explain why they could have added, well, this would have been the final lap. This would have taken us to the checkered flag. Let me go even further. Having overtaking the cars on the lead lap and the safety car, these cars should then proceed around the track at appropriate speed without overtaking, which is fine, and make every effort to take up position at the back of the line of cars behind the safety car. So basically, you have to go to the end of the longest line. If you know anything about iRacing, you know what's going on here. Whilst they're overtaking, and in order to ensure this can be carried out safely, the cars on the lead lap should always stay on the racing line unless deviating from it is unavoidable. Unless the clerk of the course considers the presence of the safety car is still necessary, once the last lap car has passed the leaders, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. This is the second part that's the problem. If you allow the cars to overtake, even if you determine that any is not all, which in my opinion it is, but let's say you don't, it still means that you have to wait a whole nother lap. From once the moment that let's say it was I don't know who was the lap down. Let's just say that I hate to break it, I gotta call him out like this. Let's say Mick Schumacher, right? Let's say Schumacher is the last car on the lap down. He'll get his lap back, but the moment he passes Hamilton with 2 to go is the end of the race. If he passes Hamilton with 2 to go or less, it's the end of the race, because you have to wait not that lap that Schumacher passes you or Latifi passes you, whoever else is behind you, or Mazepin, right? Let's say Nikita Mazepin was whatever. Whoever's the lap down, last car the lap down, you have to wait essentially 2 laps, because you go around once. That's not the following lap. The next lap will be that lap. So you can't send the safety car with 1 to go if the last car passed you 2 to go. I know it's confusing and all, but I'll put up a track map and I'll do a little bit editing. I don't like that, but we'll do some editing here. If the clerk of the course considers the track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message overtaking will not be permitted. It will send to all competitors by the official permission system. Okay. Basically, it means if Massey thinks it's not a lot, that people shouldn't overtake, he'll say overtaking is not permitted, and they'll restart the race. That's fine. And track conditions is kind of questionable here. You could say the track conditions is how many laps are left. That you can make that argument. That's fine. So that did not happen. They sent the cars in. Mercedes was furious. And basically, they restarted the race when they never should have restarted the race. Per this rule. Now, give me a moment here. I think this is going to switch over. Oh, recording has maintained. How about that? Except the other banner did not. That's for regulations. Okay. So here we are now. The 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. From the stewards to all teams. Were protests filed by Mercedes-AMG F1 team against the classification established at the end of the competition. The stewards decided this is not a valid protest. And to that I have to say they're wrong. Per this rule, Mercedes is right here. Oh, the stewards said they're wrong. Well, let's read this here. On December 12th, the parties were summoned and heard Yeah, this is your Red Bull was like, since they were like a party that was like not like that had like some risk at this. I'm sure they put him in there too. That's what they mean by as an interested party. So they broke up the meeting about like 45 minutes later, and then reconvened another 40 minutes later. So they have like a argument. It's like a case. It's like a trial here. Race director, so Massey was also here. There are no at the hearing. There were no objections against the outcome position of the stewards panel. Yeah, so they basically were asked questions. They made their argument. They were asked questions. At the hearing, Red Bull submitted information. I'll have to do this. Oh, is this still recording? How about that? Nice. If it still records, I'm happy about that. Yeah, that means I have to go back and out. All right. So, the claims of Mercedes. Mercedes claims there's two breaches of storing regulation. This is the one we just read. Namely, it states any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lap of the safety car. And once the last lap car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Mercedes argued that had this been complied with, car 44 would have won the race, which is Lewis Hamilton. They therefore requested the stewards to amend the classification under Article 1. So it's basically like how they amend it. It took me a little bit to figure that one out. Red Bull's arguments. Red Bull argued that any does not mean all, which I have to disagree with, but that's alright. That Article 48.13 of the sporting regulations states that the message safety car in this lap is a signal that it will enter pit lane at the end of that lap. That therefore, Article 48.13 overrides Article 48.12. That Article 15.3 gives the race director overriding authority over the use of the safety car. And that if all cars that had been lapped, 8 in total, which 5 were allowed to overtake the safety car, it will not have changed the outcome of the race. So let's break this down here. This is our argument. So they say, we'll actually go to this rule here. It's going to be right here. 40.13. When the clerk of the course decides it is safe to call in the safety car, the message safety car in this lap will be sent to all competitors via the official messaging system, and the car's orange lights will be extinguished. This will be signal to competitors and drivers that will be entering the pit lane at the end of that lap. At this point, the first car in line may dictate the pace and follow a couple car lengths behind it. Basically, in order to avoid accidents before the safety car returns to the pits, don't brake or accelerate, or basically be doing stupid stuff. Each lap we complete our safety car, and then as the safety car is approaching pit entry, the safety car boards will be drawn, and other than on the last lap, they'll have a green flag. Last lap would be obviously a white flag, and a checker flag. The pace car will just send you back in. They'll just follow the pacer. The lights won't turn off. Basically, that's what that means. So they claim that this rule overrides this rule. I mean, you can make the argument of that, but since when does this rule doesn't say Rule 48.12 is null or void if this is used? That's just my personal opinion. Like you have two contrasting rules here. But in reality, if you're following 18.12, the clerk of the course, as it's here in quotes, should not be allowed to call in the safety car if this is in use, because you cannot call the safety car in per this rule. You cannot call the safety car in without running that extra lap. You cannot do that with this rule. with 48.12. You cannot utilize 48.13 until the next lap. That's how I read it. But we can keep going here. The race director's evidence. The race directors say that the purpose of Article 148.12 was to remove those lap cars that would interfere in racing between the leaders, and that in his view, 48.13 was the one that applied in this case. The race director also stated that it has been long agreed by all the teams, where possible, it is highly desirable for the race to end in a green condition, which also means not under a safety car. So this means that, Massey also states that this rule overrides this one. I also forgot to actually go in and take a look at 15.3. So let me go up here. And this is all publicly available information, the sporting regulations. The clerk of the course shall work in permanent consultation with the race director. The race director shall have overriding authority in the following matters, and the clerk of the course may give orders. Okay. So here's where actually I was making the wrong argument. So the clerk of the course is not Massey. This is Massey. So the race director has overriding authority over the clerk of the course in his decision under the control of practice, basically the timetable of races, and he has to make a proposal to the stewards to do so. Stopping of any car. So Massey can stop cars. The stopping of practice, suspension of sprint qualifying, or the suspension of a race. Starting procedure, or the use of the safety car. So this rule basically says, for this argument, the race director can override the view of the clerk of the course with Section E of the use of the safety car. That's fine. But the clerk of the course already made this decision. At this point, he's locked in at using this rule. The clerk of the course, so even Massey cannot overrule the sporting regulations. He can only overrule this rule here. So in theory, now this is really stretching the rules here. So he could say, Massey could have theoretically said the 5 cars could pass. But he still also can't say that the safety car is in that lap, per the sporting regulations. He can only say that a few cars can pass. That is the argument that one rule makes. So this is a weird mess, right? So you got basically the rule saying that you have to send every car, while Massey can say, no, those cars have to stop passing the safety car, the 3 cars that were not under that lap. That is really stretching the rules, but you could make that argument. But here, you're just overriding the sporting regulation, which is not right. Anyways, the conclusion of the stewards protest is admissible. Basically, the stewards said that the Article 15.3 says the race director can control the use of the safety car, which in their determination includes the deployment and the withdrawal. They claim that Article 48.13 overrides Article 48.12. And basically, they said the stewards would not end the race. They would not short. I was just making sure I was doing this right. So the request that Mercedes made is that you would go and look at the penultimate lap, and that's the classification, which would be technically right here. The stewards believe that's shorting the race, and they don't want to do that. The protest is dismissed. Mercedes doesn't get their money back. and they have the right to appeal decisions of the stewards and declines Article 15 of the International Sporting Code and Chapter 4 of the disciplinary rules within the time limits. Basically, the stewards, and that's it. So, I mean, while Massey, does he even name Massey in here? No, it doesn't. Alright. So while Massey does have the ability to send the safety car out and to withdraw the safety car, he does not have the right or the availability to not follow the sporting code. The sporting code is here. And if it says that he can, it doesn't say here he can break the sporting code. It just says, yeah. I mean, yeah. This doesn't say here, the race director shall have the overriding authority of the sporting regulations. That's just not how that works. Anyways, that's all I want to say. In my opinion, I agree with Mercedes here. I agree with this. I agree that, where is it? This argument here is valid, and I think that Formula One has a lot of work to do. Because if you didn't have all of this BS, and Max Verstappen went out and drove, and everything was followed, Max Verstappen went and drove and won the race, won the championship. Congratulations to him. Right? I think that's in order. He drove. He won a majority of races. He won a lot of races. And if he would have done that without all this random garbage with the rules and everything, I would have been so happy for him. But you gotta think, well, how many fans are, including me, are like, well, this isn't right because the rules weren't followed. Do you want to win a championship like that? Like, do you really want to win a championship where the race director really messed up, the rules weren't followed, and he should have not won the race? He even said in an interview, I think it was RacerMotorsport.com, he even said he had some sympathy for Lewis Hamilton about how it was decided. I think Verstappen thought he lost. I truly did. Hamilton was gone. But now, and I think it's the same way. I don't think Hamilton wants to win the championship under this matter here with a protest and the rules and all the wonderful weird rules and just complete garbage nonsense of the sporting code. Does he really want to win the championship like that either? I mean, I'd much rather win it this way than winning it with the stewards really messing. Well, it wasn't the stewards; it was the race director. Let's get that right. The race director really messing up. I think that Formula One has a lot of work to do to regain a lot of those Hamilton fans and a lot of fans in general. In my opinion, Verstappen should not have won the championship. I think they should put Netflix's name on there because they got a lot of stuff. They can make a two-part show. Part 1 during the race, and part 2 after the race. Like, they can make a 2 or 3 part episode about this race. There you go. They win. But, like, in reality, like, who wins here? Red Bull loses the championship. Which, also, I want to know, why did Red Bull completely get rid of Perez? I think they put on the... I don't know why they retired Perez. I've been trying to understand. Let's see if I can actually look it up. Why did Red Bull retire Perez? There you go. I'm trying to find here. Motor lap. This is a very interesting set. Perez. Oh, I get it. He was worried that he was going to be, okay, I get it. So basically, this was saying. Now I understand that. I've always struggled to figure that one out. I like how it was just instantly up there. Basically, said he was having an engine issue. Didn't want to cause the race to end under caution or under safety car. That makes sense. Anyways, this is a long video as it is. I gotta edit some of this out. So have a good one. Leave what you want. Leave who you think should win this championship in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't have a good feeling that Mercedes is going to follow this part of the protest here. Anyways, have a good one.